Okay. So I recall that the word prejudice, prejudgment, and Chad told me one time that he had a prejudice against sardines. And so I went to get some of my sardines. Now, this one may not be sardines, this may be clams, but it does say that it should be used by 2 months ago. Whereas these, they're good for another 3 years. But I think I'm gonna eat some clams. I think these are clams, and then I'm gonna. These are a cheaper sardine. I don't know. They're not as good as these. So these sardines are. I think they're from Italy. Let's see. www.comur.com. Sardina asada com pimentos. So this one will have pimentos, roasted peppers, and Portugal. This is actually produced in Portugal, not Italy. And then these have lemon in them. So not all sardines are equal. First of all, you have some that are really good. People put a lot of work into them. So like these good ones, they will remove the spinal cord, and they take extra care when they prepare them. But with the cheaper ones, there'll be a spinal cord inside, and it makes them a little bit crunchy. But prejudice is real, and I guess it depends on. It has something to do with like the home you grew up in. And I grew up in a home where my father always kept sardines in the house. Now these are like cheap version of like smoked oysters. These are smoked clams, and I really like them. Now they're like more expensive than sardines, and actually these are cheaper than the smoked oysters, but they taste just like the smoked oysters. So those are good. And my father always would take them, put them on a saltine cracker, get some Tabasco hot sauce, and that's how he would do them. I think some people would want a pickled jalapeno. That would be good. And the next one, this is sardines in extra virgin olive oil. All right, so this one's going to be the cheaper sardine that has the spinal cord in them. Yeah. Oop, got a little bit of that sardine juice on my chin. My wife was worried when she saw me taking these sardines upstairs. She doesn't like the smell. She was not raised in a house with sardines. She has prejudice against them. It's good. A little bit of crunchiness. They have some fins like tails and spinal cord. So like, yeah, that's a spinal cord. And I could show this to you perhaps, as long as I don't get this. But you can see, maybe you see a spinal cord there. Uh-oh, I don't want to drip on my computer. There's a little drop of oil, fishy oil. Very good stuff. I know a lot of people are like, ooh, that's gross. But this is me. I was born this way. And thank God for that. There's a lot of people who are sheltered. And actually, I mean, I was kind of sheltered. I was sheltered from, the wealthy rich kid lifestyle, even though my father said, you were rich. Because, it's kind of relative. You can have a rich amount of experiences that don't cost a lot of money, and in that way I was rich. And compared to other kids around the world, I was rich. So that's very good. And then we're gonna do the. I think I'm gonna save the lemon for another day. Today is a rainy day. I've saved these for a rainy day, but I'm gonna do the pimentos. Now these are the high dollar ones that my in-laws got me when they were in Europe. And you can just see a difference. Smell a difference, and there's a pepper. Pimento pepper. Ooh. So much better than the other ones. This is a high-end sardine. And I know that vegan people wouldn't like this, but man, it's good. I don't think the vegans have a very good argument about the efficiency at this point in time. That might change in the future. But yeah, I don't think there's any spinal cord. And I've watched some YouTube videos on how they can remove the spinal cord. So good. They just put so much more effort into those sardines. And so I don't know, how do you abstract the sardines and the prejudice? I would say that we humans, we end up with our identity being shaped by our environment, whether you're raised with in a house with sardines. Maybe you were raised in a house with like high dollar sardines, and you would look at these cheap sardines and you would say, "Ooh, gross!" Like, I think that happens too. And then you could have been raised in a house with no sardines, and so you can develop an identity in relationship to sardines, especially if you were raised by people who said, "Ooh, gross, sardines." And so you can end up accepting a judgment that was taught to you by your environment. I think this is actually what happens with a lot of things. I mean, once we have, I want to tie in some things that I've been learning, but maybe I'll just leave it at that. Anyways, try to be aware of your prejudices, the opinions you have, which you've never tested, that you just trusted somebody, that, for example, that sardines are gross. And then you might even like approach a sardine and say, well, how would I go about loving the sardines? How would I go about becoming someone who did not like sardines to loving them? Or, if you're raising children, could you raise children to love sardines despite you not loving sardines? And, sardines are just a kind of stand-in for almost anything. It's pretty powerful. And I guess this all would connect into something like the critical theorists who would make claims about there not being any kind of truth. And so a critical theorist could probably come along and say that all of these prejudices exist because of things that are relative and subjective. And I wouldn't go that far. I think there are real differences between people and between sardines. For example, if the sardine or the smoked clam has an expiration date, will it make me sick? If the can was dented, will it make me sick? There's real consequences in our world. So our relationship to all of these things, the things that we have prejudices about, the things we don't even know about, the things that we have been trained to believe, there's real world consequences, and a lot of those consequences will result in a kind of a lack of health or a sickness, a corruption, a disease. But I would recommend these sardines over cows. And so instead of a steak, you might want to try a sardine. I think objectively a sardine is going to be better for you and the entire world than a cow, objectively. So and I know that statement's a little bit off, but I would say in general, if you're eating cows, I think you could give up cows and begin eating sardines, and it would be better for you and the world. But I'll leave it at that. Let me know what you think.